I found this book purely by accident. I had just finished reading the flaming turd that is Glory Road by Robert Heinlein. The review is in the outline process right now. It said on the cover that it was nominated for the Hugo Award in 1964, and my first thought was, what else was nominated that year? Like, why did that get picked at all for any reason? So I looked it up. Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut Jr., a trippy, wonderful book I read in high school and only remember through the vibes it left in my brain as a core memory. I need to buy a copy and read it again. I somehow don't own one. Dune World by Frank Herbert, the collection published in Analog Magazine that would eventually become the novel Dune, one of my favorite books of all time. It must really be shocking that a nerd on the internet loves Dune. But here's a fun fact. I like book 4 and 5 more than I like the first 3 in the Dune series. I can guarantee I am one of maybe 5 people on the entire planet that feel that way. This book is an absolute banger, and no one can tell me otherwise. Best book in the series. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments, I dare you. Then we have Witch World by Andre Norton, which I read recently during my deep dive into vintage speculative fiction. I'll probably make a review of it when I read the next 2 books in the series. I have a 3-book omnibus that I'm currently working on, a book club edition, of course. And when I finish that, I'll make a review for all 3 books. And finally, we have Here Gather the Stars, aka Waystation. It was at that moment I realized I had read every book nominated that year except Waystation, which left me compelled to finish what I had inadvertently started. I found this beautiful copy of Waystation locally within a few days of deciding to read it. My wife and I were out on a date, of course, at our favorite bookstore, and I found this copy just sitting on the shelf for $6.50. And it even came with the Brodart Mylar cover to protect the dust jacket. It's wonderful. Save money, save time. Super happy. So I was going to do my regular reading of the teaser, but this boy is long. And as I was recording it, I realized it spoils like decent chunks of the book. And this book's not very long. It's only 190 pages. And this is like half of it. So instead, I'm just going to read the first sentence. Well, the first paragraph, which might also be the first sentence. No, there's 2. As a young man, Enoch Wallace had fought in the Civil War, one of the lucky ones who made it back alive. Now, more than a century later, Enoch is still one of the lucky ones, still alive and still young. For shortly after the war ended, Enoch had been approached by an alien being who offered him a much-needed job and purpose in life, to become keeper of the Waystation, an interstellar transfer depot for the numerous sapient species who roamed the starways. Like, beyond that, it legit gets into spoilers for like the whole book. This book is very good, and I understand why it won the Hugo Award in 1964. When you have the context of the early 60s going through your brain as you read this, you're like, yep, makes total sense. I don't know if it's better than most of the other books on the list. All of them are better than Glory Road. Glory Road should not be there. But yeah, it's good and I like it. But I'm going to dig into the bad first so I can gush about the stuff I really did enjoy about the book. Parts of the story just feel flat. I attribute that to how short the book is. There just wasn't enough page space to give some moments time to breathe. A good example is at one point Enoch talks to someone and basically says, this has to happen right now. And a guy with no reason to go along with what he wants just says, yeah, I can make that happen without putting up a fight. It also happens to help move the plot along exactly as it needs to. The ending feels rushed, which makes sense in a way. Even the main character has a moment where he's thinking, why is this happening all so suddenly after all this time? I like that part of it, but the story builds up to this big moment and it is over in a flash, like literally. Like there is a flash of light of some kind, and then the problems are resolved, and then we get the sliding into the ending. Even with that, it it just feels rushed. There's a part of the story that explores something Enoch has done to help with his loneliness, and it feels like it needed more time in the book. What is there is good, but I just wish there was more. Beyond that, there isn't that much to complain about. So now I get to move on to the part I really enjoy. A lot of this book is so beautifully written. Enoch, the main character, is wonderful. He's the type of character I would love to meet and just have a conversation with. His empathy and love of life, in spite of his terrible experiences, is just so refreshing in a main character. As a quick aside, I think I need more of this and less nihilistic antiheroes in my literary diet. Every character you meet feels real. Enoch's friends and acquaintances are so beautifully written, and they feel so real. Even the bad ones feel like the kind of person you've seen out in public yelling at their kids or being an ass to the cashier at the grocery store. His descriptions of Enoch's property and the surrounding countryside are fantastic and very accurate. I have been to the area he describes in the book. It is as beautiful as he describes and feels just as vibrant in his prose as it did when I drove through the area on a road trip with my wife. Now I need to go back and really see the region and just like drink it all in with his words just bouncing through my brain. The premise is also very cool. A seemingly immortal man that maintains a secret way station that connects our world to the peaceful and brotherly intergalactic community. It's such a cool concept, and when you balance it with when it was written, you understand what Simak was trying to do. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I don't know if I mentioned it in the other parts of the story, but Clifford D Simak? Simak? If anyone wants to write it out phonetically in the comments, I would appreciate it. In a decade where a nuclear apocalypse was always around the corner, we get a beautifully written novel about a man struggling to figure out a way to help the world make peace and enter into the intergalactic brotherhood for the betterment of all mankind. This book deserved the Hugo Award, and I really hope some of you go out there and read it. I highly recommend it to anyone that wants to add to their classic science fiction collection and their knowledge about the foundation that modern sci-fi is built on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.